Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles.
I stared into the mirror and saw the eyes of a dying man. At 24, I was young and just stepping into my prime, but I knew my time was running out. The reason? HIV, the precursor to AIDS, was coursing through my veins, turning my world upside down. Some might scoff and say I should have used condoms, stuck to one partner, or even practiced abstinence. But if you're thinking about throwing that third one at me, save it. I followed the first two rules religiously, and yet here I am. I always knew I couldn't live with the burden of putting someone else's life at risk, so I took every precaution. I used protection, stayed faithful, and treated every relationship with the utmost respect, guided by the golden rule. But none of that mattered in the end. Fate had other plans. No matter how tempted I was, or how sexy, or how much of a 3-0 for the girl was, I walked away whenever possible or ran as the case sometimes required. How did I end up like this? Well, let's just say her name was Kathy. She was 22 years old, could have shown up a Coke bottle with her curves, and was just a plain freak. This girl believed that there were no holds barred when it came to sex, and this often near placed me in danger of a heart attack, but I always survived, barely sometimes. We met at a sports bar when a bunch of my friends, about 8 of us in all, were chilling out watching some English League football via satellite. Manchester United was about to score in the 79th minute, when I turned to poke some fun at the Chelsea supporters about the last rites being read when I saw her walking towards our table. There was a huge United damn, as all of our eyes bugged out as she flowed across the room towards us. Everyone's heads turned toward Tyrone, our group's self-proclaimed ladies' man, as we all tried to figure out how in the world he managed to catch her eye. But then, to our collective shock, she walked right past the tall, good-looking, muscular guy that Tyrone was, and made a beeline straight for me, plain old 5 feet 10 inches me, with a body nowhere near the likes of Will Smith. I mean, let's be real, I'm not exactly magazine material, but hey, at least I can still crack a joke about it, right? Anyway, back to my story. She introduced herself to me, and after I wished my friends a good night, we spent the whole night engrossed in conversation, just getting to know each other. She was a junior accountant fresh out of college, and now trying to find herself after 4 years of college. While I, on the other hand, was a young business lawyer. I was well on my way up the corporate ladder with blood in my eye and a fire under my butt. I wanted it all, and as soon as possible, because I wanted to spend my money, not my kids. I mean, why work your butt off to pass your money on to your kids so that they can just piss it away? We both loved old country music. I mean, we were both black, but we both loved the old stuff. Our relationship was slow and hesitant at first as we took the time to get to know one another, and we quickly developed strong feelings for one another. The sex was out of this world, I mean every word of it. She gave herself fully to me, holding nothing back. We always used condoms, and she was on birth control pills as well, just in case. Things were great for the first 9 months until the wanderlust hit her. I did not recognize the signs at first, but looking back, I guess they were plain to see if you knew what you were looking for. It started slow at first by her constant grumblings that we never went out to party at all. I found it strange, but ignored it for the most part. One figured she just wanted to fight over something. Anything just to have a conflict. I mean, come on, I told her from the get-go that I preferred to spend quality time with friends versus partying with strangers. We did go out, but never really to nightclubs, because I explained to her that I got very claustrophobic if I spent over 2 or more hours in a crowd of people with all that noise around me. So, after a while, she started going out for a night on the town with her girls every month, but this soon changed to bi-weekly. Finally, it was 2 and 3 nights a week. Oh, don't get me wrong, I tried my best to spend some time with her, but we had a huge project at work with a merger between 2 cellular companies who were both in the top 20 in America, so we had a huge workload and some crucial deadlines to meet. We were in the final weeks of completing the last set of paperwork, so it was all hands on deck. I called her whenever I could and sent her flowers regularly. I was even able once to make enough time to take her out to dinner at a 5-star restaurant courtesy of my boss, because as he explained it to me, I was once young and horny like you too soon. Well, the sex that night was off the hook, and the only blemish was when the condom broke. I was shocked when I realized, because I had been using that brand for years, both me and my buddies. None of us had ever had that problem. And trust me, us guys discuss all that shit a lot. I looked at it afterwards and I noticed a small hole in it, but figured it was just one of those things. I was fairly calm about it because we had both gone for blood tests and whatnot before we had started our relationship, and we had both been cleared to be free of any STDs at the time. Things went well with the merger, and the night after the last signature was on the paperwork, I went out to celebrate with the guys since Kathy was out with the girls again. We decided to try out this new nightclub, just for kicks, by name of Lowdown. When we got there, the place was jumping. I mean, the line was stretching around the corner, but we knew the bouncers at the door, so they let us in right away. We had a ball as I released all the tension of the last few weeks and partied up a storm. The night's festivities quickly went sour on me, though, when Tyrone grabbed me and pulled me over to one of the pillars and pointed out to me a girl in the middle of the dance floor who was shaking her top above her head as she danced drunkenly around in her brassiere and miniskirt. That girl was Kathy, and my eyes went red as I realized just who it was. I was just about to go over and grab her and drag her out of the club when Tyrone put his arm on my shoulder to restrain me and pointed over to someone to her left. My jaw dropped as I saw Nancy, our old neighborhood bike, signaling to her that she was ready to go. I call her a bike because she was virtually incapable of saying no when it came to anyone requesting sex. Straight and plain, she was a 304 without the ability to say no to any man or woman, as we once found out when we caught her in the act. I was wondering what the hell was going on when Tyrone and the other guys dragged me out of the club, because I knew that I was ready to tear the place down. Chad, one of the guys in the group, suddenly exclaimed, "What the hell? That's where I know that girl from." He turned to stare at us with wide eyes. "What are you talking about?" we shouted at him, confused by his outburst. Chad looked at me and said, "Do you all not remember that summer when this young girl came to visit Nancy? She was following you around the entire time, Paul." I stared back, struggling to connect the dots. But as Chad's words sank in, a rush of memories from that summer hit me like a wave. It slowly came back to me as I remembered that summer 10 years ago, and slowly Kathy's face merged with that little girl that had had a monster crush on me 10 years ago. Why the hell had she never mentioned that had known me from before? I left the guy still seeing blood in my eyes and called a cab to take me home. When I got there, I picked up the phone and called Kathy's apartment to talk to her, but to my surprise, a man answered the phone. "Who the hell are you, and where the hell is Kathy right now?" I shouted into the phone. He calmly replied, "You mean this girl here who is giving me the best BJ? She's probably Kathy because I know Nancy, but I don't know this one's name at all." He tossed the phone onto the hook, but it did not land properly, and I heard in the background someone say, "Come on guys, it's time to pull a train on this 304 here." I dropped the phone down and reached for my aluminium baseball bat as I rushed through the door. It took me 20 minutes to get over to her apartment, and the cabbie was eyeing my bat the entire way as tried his best to avoid any eye contact. He tore away from the curb as soon as I got out of the cab as he saw me put my hand into my pocket. I took my time and went up the stairs telling myself it was a sick practical joke. Yes, that's what it was. But as soon as I turned my key to her apartment and her front door, something told me that the joke was on me as some lusty moans hit me when I stepped through the doorway. When I went into the living room, I saw the scene that matched the moans coming to my ear. They were 6 guys, all of them pumping 2 willing 304s. Nancy was pulling a train. I felt the bile rising in my throat, but the vomiting really started when I looked over and saw Kathy being tag-teamed by 2 of the remaining guys. I half expected to see someone holding a video camera because the whole thing seemed unreal. I felt like an eternity had passed, but this happened in less than 10 seconds. One of the guys noticed me and pointed me out to Kathy, who screamed and jumped up and away from the guys and ran over towards me screaming hysterically. "I can explain all this, it is not what you think." "Well, okay, maybe it is. But you were so busy and you did not have time for me anymore." So, I started hanging out with my cousin and her friends, and one thing just led to another. She finished off in a low tone as she stared at her feet. I did not say a word but just stared at her, calm on the outside, but in my head, I was sticking a gun in each and every one of their mouths and emptying the clip. First off, the guys were obviously part-time bozos. Second, this 304 had committed herself to a relationship with me and now was screwing me over like this. I reached over and held her face and pulled it upwards till her eyes were looking right into mine and spoke softly so that only she could hear. "You are nothing but a dirty low-class street hooker who will never amount to anything in this world. You put my life at risk to have some fun on the side rather than trying to talk to me and solve the problem the best way we could. If when I go to the doctor to get tested and I find out that I got anything from you, I will hunt you down and kill you. Don't think it will be quick either." I whispered menacingly into her face, and then I spat in her face as she cowered in fear and pain because I now had my fingers pressed tightly into her face, and she was moaning as I stared her down to let her know that this was a promise I would keep. During all this time, the guys whom she had abandoned to run to me from were yelling at her to hurry up and get over there before they went cold turkey. Maybe they figured I was a chicken or something, or that I was too civilized to screw them up, but tonight would be one night they would never forget. I pushed her away from me and turned to them and said softly, "Come and get it a holes." I would not feel right unless I beat the hell out of somebody, and they were my chosen targets. When my whispered comment finally registered with them, they made a crucial mistake and dived over the couch to get to me. Now, any sane man knows that you never get into a fight naked because it leaves you open to a world of hurt. The first guy to reach me found this out, as I arrested his forward momentum with a firm kick to the nuts with my weight behind it. He dropped like a stone and screamed silently into the carpet. The other guy seemed to have some martial arts training, but he could not counter a home run hit to his ribs with my aluminum bat. He too dropped to the carpet as the other one arrived with the rest of the guys in attendance. The ensuing scuffle saw me with a dislocated shoulder and a few loose teeth, but the other guys did not fare so well. Let's just leave it at that. I left her apartment a blood-covered mess with Nancy and Kathy, trying their combined best to revive the guys who were all unconscious. The first stop I made was to an emergency clinic where I explained that I had been mugged when they saw my injury and the blood all over me. I declined their advice to report it to the police, explaining that they had gotten nothing and I would rather forget about the incident and move on with my life. I got the blood test done one time with a general checkup as well. Hey, kill two birds with one stone. I went home and cried. I finally drifted off to sleep as I twisted and turned, praying that I would be able to walk away with my health, if not my pride. I went back over to her apartment a week to collect all my stuff from her place, but the place was as clean as a whistle when I got there. I started to sweat when I got there as I remembered the promise I had made to her, and rushed to the clinic to collect my test results. I had been avoiding this because of my fear, but knew now that I had to know. I did not have to wait long when I got there, thankfully. I was waved through to the doctor's office after what seemed like an eternity. He started his speech giving me the mandatory counseling, but I told him quickly, "Am I positive or not?" He paused as he stared down at my file and said quietly, "Yes, I am afraid you are." I can't tell you much of what he said after that because I just remember waking up in bed in my clothes and my pillow was wet and slimy with my tears. I hunted high and low for the 304, but she disappeared without a trace. Nancy, though, I was able to find, but the licks I poured into her were not enough to get the location for Kathy. I looked into her eyes after I was finished and saw fear, but a resolute stubbornness in them, as she refused to give away her cousin's whereabouts. She never reported me for the lashes I put down on her because she must have realized I just did not give a flying pig crap. I still went to work and was even more focused on my job than before. I mean, come on, I had to have money to buy the drugs. It's been over a year now since I have been diagnosed. I am constantly sick these days, but I am surviving. Kathy did send me an email about a month ago telling me how sorry she was and that she never meant to hurt me. Apparently, she had suspected she was positive after one of the guy's lovers had died under some mysterious circumstances. She had gone to get tested, and after she saw the results, she panicked. She had doctored the condom with the help of a needle because she wanted to ensure that I would stay with her afterwards if I found out I was positive. She figured I was screwing around as well and would blame just it on one of the other women. Despite my pleas to her that all was forgiven now that I realized I was going to die and my solemn vow that I wanted to get back with her, the 304 never gave me her address or telephone number. Hell, she did not even respond to my email. I hired a private eye the other day to help me find her, and when I receive that call one of these days with her new address, I will have my version of justice on her. I will try my best to live until that day comes because I refuse to die until I am able to piss on the dying 304 at my feet who gave me this death sentence.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.